Joining me now on a Justice exclusive, Mr. Simpson's attorney, Malcolm LaVergne. Mr. LaVergne, thanks so much for joining us here on Justice. Now, first thing I want to ask you is, I know you've spoken with O.J. since the decision. What is his state of mind right now, and what specifically can you share with us that he's told you?
Mr. Simpson is on cloud nine. He loves, obviously he likes the outcome. He loves spending time with his family right there. And he basically, you know, everything is hung from the moon at this point. The only thing that's kind of a little bit disheartening for him is that he has had a change of custody status, and they're going to kind of change that up for the next couple of months until he's released. And
what do you mean change of custody status?
Mr. Simpson has enjoyed general population status the entire time he's been there at Lovelock, and once the decision was made, the wardens and the officials at the Nevada Department of Corrections actually have modified that. He's had to move his cell into an area where he's a little bit more protected, and there's good reason for that.
Yeah, I was just going to say, what's the reasoning behind that?
Well, one of them is just for his own safety and for basically not to rile things up. And the second reason is there is a legitimate concern about threats against him. I mean, I have to be frank. Fred Goldman is my primary concern, and that was actually something that was mentioned at the time this decision was made. I was there when Mr. Simpson was informed.
Okay.
And
before you get into Fred Goldman, he was in general population for 9 years and was never considered at risk. Why, now that he's going to be free, is he considered someone who needs to be in protective custody?
Well,
are we saying that Fred Goldman is responsible? Is that where you're going?
Not responsible, but his name certainly came up in the conversations when we had that. But yes, not completely responsible. Any inmate on their own could try to attack Mr. Simpson to try and make a name for themselves. But the Goldmans himself, I think Fred Goldman himself, after the hearing, said he wished that one of the prisoners would knock O.J. in the head. And as recently as within the last year or so, he did an interview on national TV, and he basically was giving that Richard II, who will riddeth me of this meddlesome priest type argument, where he's like, I wouldn't kill Simpson, but I know people who can assassinate him.
My
and
understanding,
I won't do it.
You know what? First of all, let me make my position clear. I was a DA when this case was tried. I was very much in sync with the prosecution. I think they proved the case beyond a reasonable doubt, and I think he should have been found guilty. Having said that, what happened in Las Vegas and the sentencing, it was an overcharge, it was an over-sentence. No one would have spent 9 years in jail. So I'm just talking to you about this legally. But let's be fair to Fred Goldman, because I've spent my life, my career, protecting and defending those who've been victimized by crime, especially the families of homicide victims. And when there is something where he apparently said someone offered him a high-powered rifle, not traceable, and he could take O.J. out, and that Fred Goldman said you're talking to the wrong guy. So why would you think Fred Goldman has it out for him?
Well, he's saying you're talking to the wrong guy, but then he's like, you're talking to the wrong guy. But I'm just going to put that out there for an audience of millions to know that, hey, people are offering me to kill Simpson, and he's putting it out there for it. It's bad. It's poisonous.
What is O.J., though? What has O.J. said about Goldman?
When Mr. Simpson never says anything about the Goldmans unless something's put out there about the Goldmans. So he doesn't have any response other than obviously he's a little bit concerned that these are threats and they're being taken seriously by me, certainly.
All right.
I mean, Mr. Goldman's closing in on 80, and he may have, obviously he's had himself, worked up. He has been victimized. He is a victim. And so, who knows, in his twilight.
You know what? Don't even go there. I'm taking Fred Goldman's part on that. Now, what can you tell us about O.J.'s plans going forward? Will he go to Florida? Is he going to California? What's he going to do?
Well, Florida obviously was mentioned. It could be another option. California's another option, but obviously Florida was mentioned. And he's looking forward to spending a lot of time with his family, his kids, their loved ones who've passed away. He wants to go and honor them at their graves. He's missed 36 birthdays, as he said. And, that's what he wants to do, and he wants to basically live a quiet life.
There are reports that his children with Nicole Brown are not speaking with O.J.
Those are false. That's not true at all.
So you can tell us that O.J. has a relationship with Nicole Brown, Simpson's children?
His children.
Yes, his and Nicole's, right.
And Mr. Simpson's children, yes. He has a very, very...
Has O.J. heard from them?
They're in constant communication. I'm not sure where those rumors came from,
Okay.
but they're in constant communication. These are wonderful children.
All right, let's talk about money. Let's talk about reality shows. What's he going to do? You know, I want to tell you something first. I was on the street. I did my street justice on this. Everybody is convinced he's going to get in trouble and end up in jail again. I personally am not. But what are his? I don't think he's going to. But tell me what his plans are.
I think, you know, Mr. Simpson is very polarizing, so people probably desire that. But, you know, his history, notwithstanding a couple of incidents, his history doesn't suggest that he's going to get in any trouble. He's 70 years old, so I predict that he's going to just be playing golf and spending time with his family. I've heard a million things about reality shows. Everyone has an idea. Everyone has an idea to make Mr. Simpson $50 million, to do 6 months of work. They're all out there as ideas, and none of them are being negotiated. Nothing's being heard from at this time. I wouldn't bring those to Mr. Simpson, and I would advise him not to do those if I was his attorney when he comes on the outside. But he's an adult. He can do whatever he wants to do, and the consequences are his.
Well, I couldn't agree with you more. If you look at anyone, you look at a Robert Durst, I mean, you know, doing that show was probably the worst thing he did. But anyway, Malcolm LaVergne, attorney for O.J. Simpson, thanks so much for joining us on Justice Tonight. We hope that you come back.
Thank you very much, Judge.
All right.